And once again, welcome back to another video. There's another paid request, this time for Bobby. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting, send in a paid request for a commentary, a review, re-review, randomness, out of the blueness, whatever it may be. Feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box under the video. Now, this is for the 1967 film Doctor Dolittle. And after watching this, I kind of come to the conclusion of maybe I'm just not a fan of any of the Doctor Dolittle films. I would say of the ones I've seen, this one, Eddie Murphy's two flicks, the Robert Downey Jr. one, this one is the least offensive, as in the one, Robert Downey Jr., that was the worst one. I mean, that had an ending where Robert Downey Jr. finds a dragon who is angry because it has a bunch of stuff stuck up its ass. And so Iron Man himself gets stuff out of the dragon's ass, including chunks of armor and all sorts of stuff. I'm surprised it wasn't a dildo the size of Easter Island, and or butt plug or something the size of a Corvette. And then releases it does release this big flap of gas right on Robert Downey Jr.'s face. I bet he's lucky he's got the Disney money, the Marvel Avengers Disney money, so he doesn't have to worry about getting a lot of jobs recently. Hey, this fucking movie like Doolittle. And then the Eddie Murphy films, even they got the fart jokes and this one, it's more sophisticated. The backstory of this film seems more interesting than the movie itself, because the backstory, this is a movie that when it came out, it was a big bomb and almost bankrupted the studio, which was 20th Century Fox, which is ironic because ultimately they did go bankrupt, or I guess it technically were sold to Disney. But it almost bankrupted the studio because the budget kept going up and up and up, and when it came out, it did really no business whatsoever. And then even though critics didn't like it, they didn't even like it back in the day, the studio pushed it so hard because there's really no other films they had at that time. It got like 9 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture. Let me tell you something, this movie deserve a Best Picture nomination. So it goes to show you, ever since back in the day, the Oscars have always been full of shit and political. And that really the only reason this got nominated was because the studio pushed it so hard. Let's show it every week. Let's pimp it up, pimp it out, pimp it out. Almost like, please nominate us. No, it's not the worst movie ever, but I mean, the making of where the star Rex Harrison sounded like an asshole, like he was abusive, and he would talk down to people, and he would make all these crazy demands. And I'm like, I'm sure back then he was a star, My Fair Lady, this stuff, but Rex Harrison is not an actor that is a name that's uttered in the whispers of film history along the lines of even Clark Gable, Humphrey Bogart, or your Clint Eastwood, John Wayne even as a personality, Cary Grant, I mentioned that twice. So yeah, Humphrey Bogart should be mentioned twice, let alone Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, all sorts of stuff. James Cagney, Jimmy Stewart. Some people are like, who the hell is Rex Harrison? Yeah, exactly, but he made all these big demands and he got it. There are other people that are supposed to be in it. Sammy Davis Jr. was supposed to be in it, but Rex Harrison went, I want to work with an actor, not with a song and dance guy. So then that character was going to be played by Sidney Poitier. Good actor. But then they trimmed that role down. So then, bye-bye, Sidney Poitier. I'm like, wait a minute, you're telling me you had a chance to have a character to be a big part of the film to be played by fucking Sidney Poitier, who's a damn good actor, so damn good it made my webcam freeze. Like, literally, the power of Sidney Poitier fucked up my webcam. The awesome power of Sidney Poitier's acting prowess made time itself freeze, including my camera. Thus, it made me stutter and skip words. Like, time itself shifted because I uttered the word Sidney Poitier. He deserves it, though, because he's a damn good actor. In The Heat of the Night, I liked him in this movie called Sleepers. He was in this underrated film called Shoot to Kill with Tom Berenger. Really good actor, Sidney Poitier. But yeah, you don't have... Let's diminish the role and then just... sorry, Sidney, you're gone. But, you know, we'll keep some other stuff. And this 2.5-hour movie. Yeah, 2.5 hours. But you can't fit Sidney Poitier in his character. Okay. But, of course, all the animals they have, a lot of them got sick. Or when they got in the UK, they were held in customs. And then that delayed stuff. And then they didn't understand weather. So there's all these rain delays. So it just, then they had to build shit on the lot because there were so many delays, and it just upped the budget more and more and more. And when you watch the film, like, the acting's not bad. I'm not going to say that. There's a decent amount of scope, as in it's that old time of the 60s where you'd have big wide shots of the sets and the locations and all, well, 99% practical, you know, real animals. Dolphins, ducks, cats, dogs, monkeys, parrots. They have fox cubs, kits. I'm not sure the correct name for a fox little baby. But the parent, you tell that was a fake because the way it moved. Because it had to answer Doolittle's questions. And unlike the ones later, the animals don't speak English. They speak like an animal. And then you just have Rex Harrison. Oh, okay, you're saying this, huh? Okay, he wants this or she wants that. So, I don't know which I prefer. Because, like, the animals talk... Like, you actually do hear them in, like, the Eddie Murphy films. I wouldn't know if that was the issue. It's just the dialogue they were given to say was the issue. But at the same time, I'm fine with this as well. But it's just one of those things where... It's cool to see all these animals mixed in together in these certain places. It's just... There's no story to this film. There's no story. There's barely a plot. From what I understand, they took like 3 books and they just meshed them together. So you have this 2.5-hour movie that feels very meandering, episodic. That's the best way to put it. Where we're introduced to this guy and this kid he knows. And the guy, I recognize the guy. The actor's name is Anthony Newley. He was a songwriter. Apparently he helped write the lyrics to Goldfinger, the James Bond song. He hadn't seen it, but he helped write the lyrics. Because John Barry did the actual music. And I would sit there and go, where the hell do I recognize this guy? Who's like one of Doolittle's best friends. Oh shit, it's Captain Manzini from the Garbage Pail Kids movie. Holy shit. For all 3 that remember the Garbage Pail Kids movie, you had Sean Astin's little brother, Mackenzie Astin, and then the older guy who's the magician, Captain Manzini. That's Anthony Newley, who's in this, singing songs. And I just think about, like, you went from, in the 60s, doing stuff like this big 20th Century Fox, huge, costly production to, when you got to the 80s, the Garbage Pail Kids movie. Again, you're watching it, at least for me, in the frame of mind of, you know, that time where, you know, it's nice that even something as silly as this, in a way they took it a bit seriously, as in they had it didn't look cheap, at least for 1967. Even the outrageous stuff, like later on, they're looking for this figure called the Great Pink Sea Snail. And at the end, you do see a big pink sea snail. Granted, the effects don't hold up the best, but it was 1967. I can ease up on that. Or very briefly, you have this big giant moth. And then again, all these actual animals interspersed with each other. There's a point where Doolittle's riding an actual giraffe. Where he's in front of, deal with an actual dolphin who gets his hat and brings the hat to him. Well, it's in the water and he's on here. Nowadays, that'd just be CGI thrown in there, and it just would not have the same, like the new Doolittle. It just doesn't have the same. It just a lot of times takes me out of it. Not all the time, but a lot of times it's like, you cannot get more real than real, and that's why I would give this one more. And it also doesn't go for the shit jokes, the dick jokes, the fucking fart jokes. What pop culture references do we have in it? So that's what I mean. It was back in the day. You didn't have to worry about how many movies can we reference, how many songs can we reference, who let the dogs out, whatever the hell is to get referenced, and do we have a piss joke? Do we have a fart joke? Is this animal going fart? Is he going shit, piss? Oh my God, that tiger got his balls hit, and he mentions it. I think that's what happened in the new Doolittle, for what I remember. But I'm like, fuck, man. Holy shit. But again, what I was saying before, when I say it's episodic, we're introduced to the characters. Then Doolittle goes into his backstory, where he was with his sister. He treated humans. He was a doctor. Then his sister gave him an ultimatum. Either all the animals go or I go. So then she went. And then Doolittle learned from the parrot how to talk to the animals. Because apparently this parrot has lived for over 100 years. And I went, really? And knows like 2,000 languages, including all the other animal languages, and taught Doolittle. And so then they try to put in this love story where Doolittle falls in love with this girl. And then it kind of meanders around where you're going, okay, where's the story literally going? Okay, he talks to a guy who gives him an animal that's a two-headed llama. And he takes it to a circus. And then you have this like 20-minute subplot at a circus with Richard Attenborough from Jurassic Park himself. Richard Attenborough, who hosts the circus and ultimately sells the thing to the circus. Then, I gotta get the seal. The seal wants to go home. Okay, I'm going to dress it up in women's clothes so that I can sneak it out. And I get to the water. But then people see that, and they think that he killed someone. I'm like, okay, well, who is it, and who's missing? Is anyone proclaiming the body? And have you found a body? And nope. But he's arrested. Then they think he's insane. Then he gets broken out. Oh, now they're on a boat. Now they don't go find the Great Pink Sea Snail. Then they crash on an island and there's natives, but then they talk with the natives. And then the island's in trouble. Then like 5 minutes later, it's not in trouble. And then, I'm going to stay here with the natives for a bit. You guys go home. Ultimately, off screen, he's no longer wanted. Just from what I understand, they shot more footage, or they were going to. I don't know if they shot the footage, but they had written into the script that the finale was going to be, Doolittle is still charged with crimes. All the animals, they would, how do I put it, they would go on strike. So apparently there was going to be shots of like police dogs and horses and all this stuff going on strike. Which I think they did that in another... I think they did that in one of the Eddie Murphy films. The first or second one. Because I remember, like, the horse races... during a horse race, the horses said, we're not moving anywhere, we're on strike. So I guess the idea was later taken. But for I understand, the reason it wasn't in this is... technically that wasn't in any of the Dr. Dolittle stories. Someone else had come up with it. And then they sued. So then they had to do some kind of payout. And ultimately not have that in the movie. They just reference it very quickly in dialogue. Then he goes home on this big moth and the movie ends. It's just... it's not a raging rant because Rex Harrison... maybe he's a dick in real life. I thought he did fine as a lead. Like, I didn't... Anthony Newley, it was kind of fun to see him because I remember watching The Garbage Pail Kids a couple times when I was a kid. It's not a good movie, but I remember that. So I'm like, oh, wow, here's another movie he's in. Much earlier movie. I was just seeing all the animals interspersed with each other is kind of a cool gimmick. It's just this needed editing. It does not need to be 2.5 hours long. So it just feels boring. It just feels it's meandering. And even the songs, part of me's like, did this need to be a musical? Did it need to be a musical? Because the songs really aren't that good. There are songs that I couldn't be like, oh, I'm going to hum them and I'm going to sing them later. No, I think the songs are actually kind of lame compared to other musicals. I mean, at the time you had Mary Poppins. Mary Poppins, you have good songs. Chim Chimmery Chim Chim Chiroo. Or Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Even though the sound of it might sound atrocious. See, I could see that, and for its time, it works. But even nowadays, still, it's fun. It's catchy. It's catchy. None of these songs are catchy. They're not catchy to listen to. It's not like they're the worst songs ever, but it's just like they don't elicit much emotion. You're just kind of waiting for it to end and for the story to keep going. And so the songs, I don't think are really that good. Like, there are musicals I enjoy. The Rocky Horror Picture Show I enjoyed. Little Shop of Horrors from the 80s I enjoyed. Labyrinth technically is a musical. Because you have the songs with David Bowie. Like when he says, the magic dance. Jump, magic, jump, magic, jump, magic, jump. So technically that is a musical. Even later on, A Star is Born. I mean, some people say technically it's not a musical, but I mean, in a way, maybe not the same way as this, but that I liked that one with Bradley Cooper. So, again, it just kind of, it meandered. It felt as if you took a couple episodes, of some show, you just jammed them together. Here's the episode where they're at the circus. Here's the episode of they're on the water. Here's an episode that's how Doolittle was started. Here's the episode of them on this island. Again, it needed better editing. It needed truncated. If that, taking the songs out, I think actually would have worked better. Again, does a Dr. Dolittle film need to be 2.5 hours? And this is like 2.5 hours. This is not like nowadays. Well, nowadays a lot of films are 2.5 hours. But they still have maybe 10 minutes of credits. No, back in the day you had maybe 10 seconds of credits. So when it says 2.5 hours, it really is 2 hours and 30 minutes. With like maybe 10 seconds of credits at the end. But this is also one of those movies that has like a 2.5 minute music interlude at the start before the movie starts. There's an intermission. Because that's what they would do back then. I'm surprised they don't do that now. With how much fucking long... Okay, for people who watch some of these longer movies in the theaters, do they have an intermission? If not, maybe people back in the day had the bright idea. Let's have intermission so people can get up and go in the bathroom, or if they need to get some more popcorn. Like, the intermission actually made sense back then. But then when movies got shorter, we didn't need it. But now that movies are getting longer again, like, 2001 Space Odyssey, some of these other movies were not short films. But again, the intermission actually helped. Again, if you don't fucking bring the length back, bring the intermission back. But then maybe younger people nowadays are like, what the fuck is an intermission? Intermission is literally, let's say, okay, this is 2.5 hours. About an hour and a half into it, there's a card that says intermission, and it goes for a couple minutes. So you can leave, you go to the bathroom, you get something to eat. You have time enough to go there and come back. I know like Kelly's Heroes or Clint Eastwood had intermission. Again, there's other movies back then that had those kind of intermissions. And even the beginning where the 2.5 minute just music interlude, kind of like get people comfortable, listen to some hopefully good music. Starts with the motion picture, I think, did that. Because I remember when I first saw, I think they brought it to the DVDs and Blu-rays, but you had this nice Jerry Goldsmith music. It's black. The screen's black, but you hear this music. I think 2001 Space Odyssey had that too. Because I remember I saw that on Turner Classic Movies. And really enjoyed the experience because you kind of, it's kind of a mind, how do I put it? Taking your mind back via time travel. Like, this is how movies were presented back in the day. I did with these little things like the intermission and the musical interlude, and then the opening credits. And again, that kind of stuff is interesting to me because it's part of movie film history that is not really used much anymore, because a lot of the nowadays is ADD, short attention span. I know some people think I feel that way, but no, I can appreciate a long movie that takes his time. Ad Astra with Brad Pitt, I really enjoy. Star Trek: The Motion Picture, 2001: Space Odyssey, Doctor Strangelove, The Shining by Stanley Kubrick. But not all films deem that long as running time. A lot of films today, you could say that, and this film back then, you could say that. This film had no reason to be a 2.5 hour running time because it did not have a story to support that. It just didn't. I mean, if you have kids, it could be fun to watch so that you see some of these other animals on screen. But again, the story's not really going anywhere. It's kind of a chore to sit through. And even now that I said that, kids may be bored with it. Kids may be like, oh, God, Because even with the animals, like, they're in there, but I can't remember a lot of huge set pieces with the actual animals. There's like little moments here and there, but like actual big set pieces, you go, oh, wow, remember that scene? That's kind of reserved for more the fakery of animals, like the two-headed llama during the whole circus bit, where it's people in the suits, and so like Rex Harris is doing a move, and then it's repeating the move, and the circus owner's like, I must buy it. Just look what it could do. Same with the more fantastical animals in the third act. Or there's a bit where he's underwater talking to an octopus. You see octopus, the bit of effects they have, move its tentacles and point that way. It's like they have the animals, but they know they can train a whole lot of them to do stuff. So, and the animals they kind of get to do more is the ones that they could operate more. So I was a big fan of the movie. Again, the songs didn't get me. Again, musicals, you just see stuff from Mary Poppins, the Rocky Horror Picture Show that are better than this. Again, it doesn't have the bad jokes of Eddie Murphy's film. It's not the train wreck that the Robert Downey Jr. film is. This could use an edit. I mean, if you had an edit, and honestly, again, if you took out maybe the songs and you truncate a lot of stuff to... If someone took work, they could probably edit maybe 50 minutes out of the film. Like the whole circus bit you could kind of take out, other than the seal bit, because that gets him arrested. But he could go to circus, and then it's about the seal, not about this two-headed llama that, again, whatever. But with that said, if you like the film, that's cool. To me, it just wasn't a big cup of tea for me. Thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.